and welcome back to another episode of the Oner podcast, the podcast where we break down and review films all in one big, long, unbroken take. I'm spooky Austin Archer, and with me, as always, is my childhood next-door neighbor and lifelong best friend,
Normal Kramer England.
What are you talking about? You got a
I'm
beard
sorry,
on
I'm
right
not.
now?
Oh yeah, I guess that's
You're not
maybe that's
feeling
spooky.
you're not feeling scary. You're not feeling
No, I don't feel. I don't ever feel scary.
Well, how do you feel about the are you a big Halloween guy or I feel like I should know
No,
this, but
no, I know. I'm not a big Halloween guy. I mean, I love the season. It's a lot of fun. I like horror movies, but not like they're not my go-to. Like I think I appreciate when they do something different with a genre, kind of like the movie we're talking about. Kind of like the movie that we're talking about today with the Blair Witch
yeah.
Project. I appreciate when they do things that kind of push the genre in a different direction or kind of make something a little bit different. But like just like your run-of-the-mill horror movies, I don't care much for those. So
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the most like produced genres in all of film. And
yeah.
so there are so many horror movies. That's the
Yeah.
thing. And the vast majority of them are not very good. And so I really do I think the reason why movies like The Blair Witch Project stick in the cultural consciousness is because whenever it's done well,
Yeah.
it sticks. Like
Yeah.
Halloween, The Thing,
Yep. Love those.
even Jaws to an extent.
Yeah. Yeah. The Sixth
Like
Sense.
the Sixth Sense, like Hereditary, like there's these
Yeah.
movies that like
Yeah.
are these The Ring, we talked about we did
Yeah.
an episode on The
Yeah.
Ring, and this is absolutely one of them.
Oh, yeah.
This, we've already talked about on our Oner Funners that the Blair Witch Project is not the original found footage,
No.
faux documentary horror film.
Yeah.
Uh, there's Cannibal Holocaust. There's
Yeah. The Connection, except for that's like a
yeah,
drama, but there's a few others of these, yeah, and it
I think
this
there's one that's called like The Last Broadcast that
yeah,
came out.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's something
Uh-huh.
like and then there's like Alien Abduction, which seemed kind of interesting too, so
But this is regarded by many people as maybe the best or the one that like really helped to popularize the
yeah.
genre in
I think it really pushed the genre forward because they did everything right with this movie in regards to going all in on this genre. I mean, it's a horror genre, but this found footage style, which it was at the time, right? They made it as if it was really found footage instead of like a lot of movies now that are found footage. Like I think about Cloverfield. I like that movie, but you can tell like it's very, very highly produced. There's like like it doesn't look like it was real in any way. It's just using that genre to its advantage. This looks like it was real. Like they made it poorly on purpose to give in to this style that they were going for.
Yeah, honestly, I'm so glad we chose to do this movie.
Oh yeah, me.
My general feeling about this after watching it again, I didn't know how it was going to go down for me because I hadn't
Yeah,
watched it in years, and I didn't know if it was going to have the same impact on me that it did when I
yeah,
was younger. I
yep,
didn't know if the performances were going to I remember feeling as a kid that the verisimilitude in this film and
yeah, yeah,
the groundedness
yeah,
was what really pulled me in. But I was like, maybe I'm gonna come back to it and find that like the performances feel phony, or that it's like
yeah.
not it, or that it doesn't work as well as I remember. And watching it, I just was so impressed by this movie. I'm just
Yes.
like this has become a very, very marketable and profitable genre in horror. And there are a lot of good examples of movies that are good movies and entertaining movies and fun movies that use this style.
Yeah.
But mostly it seems like these days the reason why people choose to do the found footage style is because it's cost effective. It's
Oh
just
yeah. Yeah.
like it's the reason why people like to operate in the horror genre to begin with is it's one of the cheapest and biggest bangs for your buck you can get, where it's like we can do an entire movie set
Yeah.
in one or two locations
Yeah.
and have like a few cool practical effect shots,
Yeah.
and we can sell a lot of tickets and you make
And
yeah,
you do not need a star. It is one
right,
of the very, very, very which actually it might be one of the only genres where you do the star is the horror. So you
right.
don't need a Leonardo DiCaprio to come in there to give it some sort of, pull. The horror is the star. So it's cheap and you can use anybody you want, as proven with this film as well.
In fact, when you put someone like Leonardo DiCaprio in something that feels like a horror movie, like Shutter Island, say,
Yeah, yeah,
it
yeah.
it winds up making the film not feel as much like a horror film because you're like,
Right.
I feel like I'm watching a prestige thriller drama
Yeah.
that has horror elements because Mark Ruffalo's here and
Yeah.
Ben Kingsley's here and Leonardo DiCaprio and Michelle Williams is
Yeah.
here. Like horror almost it almost works better when the actors are mostly unknown. I will make an
Yeah.
exception for Toni Collette in Hereditary because that's one of the best
Oh, yeah, yeah,
horror
yeah. Yeah.
performances of all time.
Yeah.
But
Shot in Utah, by the way.
yep, yep.
Actually, my coworker was the special effects supervisor, I believe, on that one. So
Yeah,
he got to work.
the guy that is currently attached to direct the film that I'm producing right
Oh,
now,
yeah, that's right.
was
You told me that.
he got his start on that film. They was
Yeah, that's
Hereditary
great.
was his first thing. I mean, he didn't direct it, obviously. Ari Aster
Yeah,
directed it,
yeah,
but
yeah.
he was there and he has some really great stories from the set. But
Yeah, yeah, so does my friend. He has a few, which is great.
yeah, um, but yeah, this movie, I just I don't think personally, this is my personal opinion because this movie is divisive with fans.
Yeah,
Critics, it has a very high critic score on Rotten Tomatoes. I think it has like an 86% or something.
yeah,
And
yeah.
the fan score, the audience score, I should say, is like 58%. And
Okay.
I think that fans of the horror genre, if they don't like this movie, it's because they find it boring. They think that just
Yes.
like not enough happens. There
Yeah.
there are no jump scares in this movie, not a single one. There's no soundtrack. There's no like
No,
music
no.
hits that make you jolt. There's no it's and there are no like major set pieces where like something insane happens. The
Yeah.
biggest thing is the very last sequence, and that's not even that big. It's like
No, no.
quite subtle
Oh, yeah.
and small, and but it's and I think it's totally valid if that's why people don't like the film,
Yeah,
but it's the reason why for my personal taste, I don't think that this genre has ever been done this well before or after.
yeah,
I personally feel like this is like the
yeah.
gold standard of what you should be trying to accomplish with a found footage
Yeah.
movie.
Well, and one of the things which I totally understand if people don't like this, because I looked on Letterbox today and I saw a friend's review, and he's like, I was pretty underwhelmed. He's like, but it would have been good if I saw it when it came out. And I think this movie does have a lot of mystique to it if you grew up in the time period like we did. Like
Yeah.
when we grew up, it affects us a lot more because we're remembering what we thought it was, that we thought it was real. Like I remember you and I having conversations about thinking that this was real. Like,
Yeah.
dude, it's
Oh
real,
yeah.
man. Like it's real. I saw that documentary. Like I saw the parents on the news, like,
But they did such a good job
oh
with the
yeah.
marketing campaign. They
Oh,
did such a
absolutely.
And again, watching it, I just watched it yesterday, and watching it again, I was like, this feels real still." And
Oh
it's
yeah.
not just that I'm remembering, like, how it's
Yeah.
again, like, when we watched Ninja Turtles, it's the
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
kind of experience that I go back and I'm like, "Is this as good as I remember it, or
Yeah.
was I just a kid?" And I watch it and I'm like, "I actually think this movie's kinda surprisingly good." I watched the second one, which I also loved as a kid,
Yeah.
and I'm
Yeah.
like, "No, this sucks." So I can
Yeah.
tell I know I'm capable of watching something as an adult that I liked as a kid and going, "This isn't as good as I remember
Yeah.
it."
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's kind of sorta like the more I watch Return of the Jedi as an adult, I'm kinda like, "This movie's it's like it's the weakest of the 3 for sure." Whereas a kid, it was like my favorite. I loved Return of the
Right.
Jedi,
Right.
but I'm like, Empire Strikes Back is the best of the original 3 for sure. Um,
Right. Right.
but it's I coming back to the Blair Witch Project, I just was still from the very beginning, I was like, and it's like Olivia and I watch a lot of true crime,
Yes. Yeah.
documentaries together,
Me and
and
Amy as well.
the footage from Heather's camera
Yeah.
specifically looks so much like the footage that you see in these true crime documentaries
Oh, yeah.
of like home videos of
Yeah.
Christmas at like
Yep.
it just feels it was so smart of the directors to have the actors film it
Yes.
and not
Yes.
have professional cinematographers film it,
Yeah.
because it feels like a real
Yeah.
person is shooting it. It
Yeah.
doesn't feel like they have a shot list that they need to accomplish for the day, and they're,
Right.
like, setting up shots and composing shots. That's
Yeah.
not what's going on here.
No.
It's yeah,
And that is one of the big problems with found footage. The found footage genre now is that it's just too professional.
right.
Like again, Cloverfield, it's like they have these really high-end cameras, and I'm like, wow, that's some good camera work. And how do you have 5.1 Dolby surround sound on your camera? That doesn't make any sense. Like what is that? How did that happen? Like,
That's
it
and speaking of which, I love the sound in this
yes,
movie, in the Blair
because
Witch
it's so
Project.
bad.
And the fact that the sound only comes from her camera and it doesn't come from the
Yeah,
16 millimeter camera. So
yeah,
if we're watching the 16 millimeter cam and it's, it's 15 feet away from
yeah,
Heather, we
yeah.
can only hear her voice
Yeah,
faintly. But
like in
like,
the end, yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah. And it's like, it's just, yeah, I
yeah.
love the sound design because it's so disorienting
It
too.
is, yeah,
And, you know, and it's another thing that just we all grew up watching home videos, so we know
yeah,
what amateur home videos look like, and we know what
yeah,
amateur camera work looks like.
yeah,
And even as kids who made movies growing up, you and me made movies, we know
mhm,
because that's kind of what this movie is like it's a bunch of college kids who like want to be filmmakers
yeah,
and they're learning how to be filmmakers, but they're not pros at it yet
no,
by any
no,
stretch of the imagination. And it looks like amateur filmmakers who are cutting their teeth and trying to figure out what their own personal style is.
yeah.
Uh
Oh,
yeah.
absolutely, and I think the thing that I really picked up on this, again, like the performances, because they didn't have a script. They kind of like the directors just gave them direction. I think they left them notes, like, every morning, and they'd tell them, "Do this, do that, do this," and they
And
kinda would guide them.
they would give each of them different notes and
Yes,
different motivations, and they
yes.
wouldn't let them tell each other
No.
because like in
Yeah,
real life, it's like, well, they wouldn't know what my inner
yeah,
motivation is,
yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah, and so they like it was great because they just left it all to the actors. And the thing that I picked up on this one that I really, really loved is so Heather Donahue, which is
Mhm.
her real name. They used their real names, which added
Right.
to the realism again. But her performance is like so I was so amazed by it this time because she's like a film student, right?
Uh-huh.
And she is so overly confident when she shouldn't be.
Yeah.
And I have seen so many people like that. They just never can admit that they're wrong.
Right.
And they're like, always, no, I'm right. This is what it is. This is perfect. No, you're gonna look back on this and laugh. And it's like, oh my gosh, you are so annoying because your performance is so true to like somebody who would be like that. Cause she never admits she's wrong. She always says she knows exactly where she is, but they're totally lost. And like which to me, I was like, wow, she has a really good arc in this movie. She actually has one where
Mhm.
she finally breaks down in the very, very famous scene where it's right in on her face. And
Uh-huh.
she finally admits that, like, I did all this. Like, I didn't know where we were going. I didn't know what I was doing. So her performance, like, blew my mind this time.
But also, I all 3 of them, do
Oh,
such a
yeah.
good job.
Yeah.
Like, when the way that the guys ratchet up their frustration and their sort of descent
Yeah.
into madness, the scene where they're both laughing and she's like when they've lost the map
Yeah.
and she comes over and she's like, "This isn't funny, stop laughing." Like, "What do you like, what are you guys laughing about?" And when Josh looks at her and is like when he's like, "Heather, don't make me yell at you right now. Don't make
Yeah.
me yell at," like, dude. But also, like, when Josh talks to her and he's like, "Heather, that's not cool, dude.
Yeah.
That's not cool. That's the least like, when he like,
Mhm. Mhm.
it all just feels so real. And
Yeah.
again, this thing that the directors did where they left the dialogue up to their actors, just gave them,
Mhm.
like, their motivation for the day and what they wanted their kind of direction to be for the day.
Right.
This could have gone wrong so easily.
Oh,
This
yeah.
could have resulted in an unwatchable film.
Oh, yeah.
Like they're taking that's again why I'm so impressed with the movie is because I feel like if you went out and tried to use the exact same ingredients again and tried to recreate what they managed to make and just got like 3 random actors that no one's ever heard of, gave them a couple handheld cameras and said like, "We're just gonna tell you your motivation every day, and you're just gonna sort of improv your way through this movie,
Yeah.
and we're gonna cut it together into something that works." It's just like the risk you run is like, what if we just don't wind up getting anything? What if
Yeah.
we like at the end of it, we can't cut something together that even works as a
Mhm.
movie, like,
Yeah.
or it's just not interesting, or the performances feel phony and
Yeah.
feel like I kept leaning into like watching it and the scene work and being like, it doesn't feel like it's written. It does
Mhm.
feel like but it also doesn't feel like actors doing improv, if that makes
No.
sense.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
feels
yeah.
like it feels like real people talking to each other.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I don't know the you could definitely argue the ethics of this because I think a
Right,
lot of the frustrations were real,
right.
and the filmmakers did, like, take away some of their food, and they told them to go places, and they weren't in the right spot, or they told them, they left them hanging for a long, long time, they left them waiting just to make them frustrated, so it's kind of like, is that really ethical to do? I mean, but I think also the actors gave into it, right? Like they're supposed to be frustrated with each other.
Yeah.
So I think it all worked out. Like it all, and I mean they only filmed for 8 days. So luckily it wasn't too crazy. And I think the filmmakers were always around. But yeah, it did not feel like improv. It just felt like they used a lot of truth in their performance because that's probably what they were feeling anyway.
Yeah, I mean, if I like hearing the actors talk about this film, and you're right, there is a conversation to be had about whether or not the way this was made is
Right.
ethical, and I would argue that like it's probably not. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't as a filmmaker, I would not put a group of actors through something like this
No.
unless it was something that like we had all discussed
Right.
beforehand and everyone was like, "No, we're down. Like, we're
Yeah. Yeah.
totally down and
Yep.
like let's get wild, let's do it." Then it'd be like, "Okay, as long as everyone like knows what they're signing up for and everyone is like fully consenting to this and everyone's like
Mhm.
excited about it." Because hearing the actors talk about it, they're like, "Listen, we weren't going home at the end of the shoot day to like
Yeah.
a hotel room.
Yeah.
We were camping in the woods and it was cold and they were taking our food away. So
Yeah.
by the 4th or 5th day of shooting, we had to ration food while we were walking around and
Yeah.
like at by night like and we were working all day, like we were
Yeah.
shooting all day long
Yeah.
and and trying to get footage all day long,
Yeah.
and by the end of the day we would be like tired and cold and wet,
Mhm.
and like when it's raining in the movie it's really raining, like they're
Yeah.
out in the rain and and so hearing that I'm like that is a brutal experience, and
Yeah.
film shoots can be exhausting anyway. Working 12-hour days
Oh, yeah.
back to back to back to back to back can be really exhausting anyway, even when you're going home to a hotel room
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you get to take a nice warm shower at the end of the
Yeah.
night and, wash off your makeup and come back to work in the morning with a cup of coffee. Like it
Mhm.
still is exhausting.
Yeah.
And so it's like there's stories about Stanley Kubrick kind of
Yeah,
putting
yeah.
Shelley Duvall through stuff
Right.
like this for The Shining, and I don't know. I personally, I feel like if the actor is not aware of what you're doing to them,
Yeah.
or like Toby, what's his name that made the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, how he did
Yeah.
stuff like
Was it Toby Hooper? Or
Toby Hoop. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking,
yeah, yeah.
uh, but yeah, he put his actors in like
Yeah.
really really hot sets
Yeah.
that everyone was sweating and
Mhm.
um, and
Yeah, I mean, and especially with those guys, like you're working with actors who are knowingly acting and
mhm,
making a character. Like their job is to act. If you don't feel that they can give you an authentic performance, then you should get a new actor. Don't put them through that kind of stuff. Like the stuff that Stanley Kubrick did was
right.
total. Like, dude, that's not cool at all. Like,
Especially knowing what we know about how Shelley Duvall kind of turned out later in her
yeah,
life. It's like, wonder how much, trauma
yeah,
she got put through by men in the industry like
I
that, you
know,
know?
I know.
So,
It's like just trust your actors. They're gonna do a great job. Like, it's not good. They can give you a performance that will be just as authentic as if you're like getting something that's real.
I will say this, I watched a lot of footage of these actors at different, like, show screenings of
Yeah,
this movie
yeah,
talking about their experience, and it doesn't, at least to me, it doesn't sound like anybody came away from it and was like, I'm not cool with what happened
right,
out there."
right.
Like, I
It does
think that
seem like they were okay with it. Yeah,
I mean, I think they all were probably blown away by the fact that their 30 to $40,000 movie wound up
yeah,
making $250 million
right.
and became a worldwide phenomenon. So
Yeah,
if they had any sore feelings about the process, they probably were washed away with
yeah,
the success and the
yeah. Unfortunately, though, they really didn't get compensated fairly. I mean, from what
yeah.
I saw, I mean, when you make a movie and you sell it like this, like you can only expect so much. But I don't even think they got that. Like, it seems like they got pretty
That
uh
sucks
taken
too, that
advantage of. Yeah, for sure.
it's like
For sure.
everybody, like those 3 actors and the 2 directors, I think they all should have equal ownership of this thing, especially the actors, like, they made the movie, like, they shot
Yeah,
it.
they did everything.
They
They
did
did
everything.
everything.
They were
Yeah.
your crew, they were like, like,
Yeah.
I think that's kinda ridiculous. So
It is, yeah.
I there is a conversation that's valid, I think, to be had about the ethics of how this was made, and I think
Oh,
that's a good
yeah.
point that you bring up, but also it's kinda like how I feel about method acting, where I'm like, I'm not a method actor. I
Right.
don't I don't really particularly like it. Jared Leto does it, and I don't think he needs to. I don't think it, like,
Yeah.
I think his work
Yeah.
is fine, and I don't see, like, a meaningful difference, but then, like, there's Daniel Day-Lewis, who I'm like, it seems to be working for you, sir. Like, you
Right.
are
Right.
one of the best to ever do it, and it seems that this process works for you. Again, with that, for me, it's always like, as long as you're not making your process take precedent over everyone else's work on set,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
it's not like your process is now consumed, like you're ruining someone else's process because your
Right. Right.
process is more,
Yep.
like,
Yep.
and it's like, if you want to slap someone for real on camera or push someone, just make sure you check with the actor that,
Yeah.
like, hey, what if
Yeah.
we did this? Or
Yeah.
like, you know, just make
It
sure you're communicating.
yeah, in the end, it is a job. Like, and
Right.
if you did that in a job, if you slapped a coworker in your job, you could get fired, right? So
Right.
make sure the actors know, which there's a lot of stories where people are like, no, just hit me for real. Right.
Right.
And they'll do it, which is, it's like, if you're all on the same page and you're all good, that's great. Just make sure everyone knows what you're doing. But
Yeah,
anyway,
I did a play one time with my friend where Mackenzie, where we were in our underwear wrestling each other.
yeah.
And like the first time we were rehearsing it, we were trying to like block it. And it was a indie play where we didn't have the budget for like a fight choreographer or an
Right.
intimacy coordinator. And I
Right.
just talked to her about it. I just was like, how do you feel about this scene that we have to do?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
she was like, I kind of just want to go for it if you're cool with that. And I was like, what do you
Right.
mean? She's like, I kind of just want to like wrestle you. And I was like, I'm cool with it if you are. And I was like, and
Yeah.
I will not actually, I was like, I will do everything I can to like not hurt you. I was like, I'll do everything I can to like make sure you're not like getting slammed on the floor or stuff.
Yeah.
And she was like, yeah, but she's like, I think we should just kind of go for it. And I was like, if you're cool with it, I'm cool with it. And that's
Yeah.
what we wound up doing. But it was worked out with us that like we were
Yeah.
gonna do
Yeah.
that. And we
Yeah.
and we sort of came up with like beats to it. We were like,
Nice.
we're gonna do this, then we're gonna wind up in this position, and you're gonna like spank my butt for a while, and then I'm gonna like and yeah, like
Yeah. Yeah.
we
Yeah.
sort of worked it out, but we
Nice.
were really we were really wrestling each other,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, but you're right. So last night Olivia and I watched The Visit, M. Night
Oh,
Shyamalan's The
okay.
Visit.
Yeah. I have not
um
seen that.
oh, it's
I've heard it's great.
it has a lot of really great stuff, and it has a lot of like bad M. Night Shyamalan writing that's really groan
Yeah.
worthy,
Yeah.
and just like some lines that are like, ugh, dude, like it just sounds like whenever M. Night Shyamalan tries to write for kids and he tries to like speak in kid slang, it's like that's not it just sounds like someone's
Yeah.
dad being like, don't
Yeah.
the kids talk like this? And it's like, no, dude, it's not. That's
Yes.
not. You
Yes.
know, uh like at one point this kid says about his grandparents, he's trying to say they're acting shady, but he goes like, they're throwing shade for real. And I'm like, throwing shade means you're being like rude.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's not like, throwing shade is not the same as acting shady.
Yeah.
They're two
Yeah.
different things. But anyway, but that movie is a great example of like the movie works.
Right.
It's totally entertaining, it's totally fun, but at no point in that movie does any part of you believe that you might be actually watching a real
Right.
documentary.
Right.
It's it is so obvious that the cameras that they like they're picture cameras that you see are like, you're like, that's not the camera that you guys are shooting on. Like,
Yeah.
you are shooting this on an Alexa, like for sure.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's so obvious when like the girl who's like the main videographer in the movie, when she does like, kind of selfie mode where she'll like hold the camera and look into it at
Uh-huh.
herself, it's so obvious that she's not holding the camera, that
Yes.
she's just got her hand on a handle underneath
Yes.
the mat box, and that there is a camera up follow, like
Right.
like, and everything, like every moment that needs to be perfectly captured, and like every moment that the camera needs to get, they always get it, like they always
Mhm.
get the shot.
Yeah.
And that happens in so many of these movies, because what's happened to this genre is like, I heard a critic talking about found footage movies, and he was like, too often people critique films for something that the movie is not trying to do. So,
Yeah.
like, people critique Blair Witch and say it's boring, like,
Right.
there's
Right.
not enough happens, and it's like, the movie's not trying to scare you every 30 seconds or have these, like, big moments that with, like, a monster that jumps out and jumps in front of the screen. It's trying to get you to buy it. It's trying to
Mhm.
get you to
Mhm.
believe in what's happening, and I think that it's incredibly successful at that goal. And
Mhm.
what's happened to the found footage genre since this, it's been massively popularized, but more or less it's like people have just kind of given up on trying to, like, trick you into thinking that it's real, and
Yeah.
it's more or less just a thing to go like, "This'll keep the costs down." Like, that's why the War of the Worlds 2025 movie that we reviewed is the way that
Right.
it is
Right.
it keeps the overhead down, but they're not trying to trick anybody into thinking this really happened.
Mhm.
And since they're not doing that, it's like watching The Office or Parks and Rec where the camera's, like, always running, and the camera seems to have a limitless battery and seems to
Yeah.
have a memory card that can never be full, and it just
Yeah.
seems to always be capturing every moment,
Mhm.
and like there will be setups where you can tell that they're trying to be like, okay, so the person who's filming the documentary like set the camera over here that's where no one could see it so they can have
Mhm.
this scene. But it's just like it I never buy it in these other films. And that, it's not that I don't like the films. Like, I really
Right.
like
Right. Right.
Rec. I really REC, or
Yeah. Yeah. Wreck.
uh,
Yeah. Whatever it is.
I like that movie. I like Cloverfield. I like The
Yeah.
Visit. I
Yeah.
like p Paranormal Activity, at least the first one I think I enjoyed.
Mhm.
But this is Blair Witch Project is the only time I've ever watched one of these movies and been like, they're really pulling off the feeling of a real found footage
Yeah.
horror, you
Yeah.
know?
They really. It's you kind of only get one, and especially for this genre, this was the one. There were
Yeah,
some before it, but like this made it. This pulled it off, and they went for it, and they did everything right. They didn't have a soundtrack. They didn't have music. They let all the mistakes in. They kept them in. Like they did very little to kind of correct. Um, they just kind of rolled with things that happened, which makes it so much better. I mean, now the found footage genre is fun because you can do things with it, but nobody believes that any of this stuff is real. You know,
right.
Any found footage movie that comes out now, it's not like when this came out. Like, I think this is real. No, you
Right.
can't get that anymore.
Yeah, well, we like it, and we're gonna get into some spoilers. If you haven't seen this movie, it's 26 years old. Go watch this movie. It's a classic.
Yeah,
But we're gonna talk about some stuff that might spoil it for you if you don't want it spoiled from this point forward. So, spoiler warning. But yeah, this movie starts off with, what a lot of found footage movies start off with. It's like in
yeah,
1994,
yeah.
three film students were making a documentary about this town. They disappeared, and then this footage was found. But the kids
Hmm.
were never seen again. So we know the ending from the beginning too. It's like,
Yeah,
like which is another thing that I think actually lends to the dread of
oh
the
yeah,
watching this movie
oh yeah,
is, like, nobody's making it out.
yeah. They're
And
all
this is
gonna die. Yeah,
yeah, there's just this, like, this feeling of, like, none of these, especially early on, it's like they don't know this is their last
yeah.
weekend, you know?
That's what adds, again, like you just said, that's what adds to the dread. Like, oh wow, so everything they're doing is we're watching the last part of their life.
It's like when I like Gabby Petito, I don't know if you remember influencer who was like a van life influencer, and her boyfriend killed her
Yes.
in Moab.
Yes.
And like there's like footage of the police stopping them in Moab and talking to them, and it's like
Yep. Yeah.
there's like and you watch that, and the eeriness is knowing that it's some of the last footage of her alive with
Right.
her fiance,
Yep.
and that the cops like had them and could have
Mhm.
like gotten her away from him, and weren't successful in doing that.
Right. Yep.
And that's how this movie feels, is you're watching these kids like unknowingly walk into their doom, and we all know from the outset that
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that is not gonna end well for sure. And
yeah,
I do really like this opening, section. They pick up Mike, and then they're just kind of talking about what's gonna happen, and and then they interview some of the townsfolk, and like I loved that part of it because that feels so real. Like apparently, I think the lady and her child, they just like grabbed off the street and like she agreed to do it. But like the other one,
Everyone, this whole sequence, I was like, everyone feels so real.
oh
Everyone.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The old guy, he's talking as if, oh yeah, this is an old, because they made this up from
Right.
scratch. Like they
Right.
made up the whole lore, they did all this stuff, and but it seems like it's an old. Everything feels so authentic too. Like it was like back in the in the Salem witch trials era, and like it just all feels like this would be a folklore somewhere, back east.
Well, it's just like so, all the other movies that do this, and again, this is no knock to all the found footage movies that have come
No,
after
no,
this, because
no.
like I said, I've enjoyed a lot of them. But like you can only write dialogue that sounds so naturalistic. Even if you wrote a script and then told your actors, feel free to play with it so that it feels more natural,
Yeah,
it just feels like actors reading dialogue, no matter how
yeah,
good the actors are doing.
yeah.
And the same with like the camera work, where it's like they try to make the camera work shaky so that it feels authentic,
Mhm.
but it's still like it feels like a professional camera op
Yeah.
doing intentionally shaky camera work.
Yes. Yeah.
And this movie, it's like I guess the comp I would say is Chloe Zhao's movie,
Mm,
Nomadland.
mhm.
They most of the cast outside of David Strathairn and Frances McDormand in that film were actual
Yeah.
nomads who lived in their vans. They were
Right.
the real people, and so there are all these scenes in that movie that feel like a documentary. It just feels like you're
Mhm.
and the act. And I think that film is a medium where real people just shot candidly do great. Like they
Oh, yeah.
really
Yeah.
like Sean Baker casts a lot of real people in his movies that just feel real. And
Yeah.
this whole opening sequence, everyone that they're interviewing is like, yeah, this does not feel scripted. This doesn't feel like
Yeah.
actors performing dialogue. This feels like they stopped somebody on the street and said, "What do you
Yeah.
know about the Blair Witch?" And that
Yeah.
person told them.
Yeah.
And
And I actually, I watched so they made a fake documentary about it.
right,
It's like The Curse of the Blair Witch or something. I can't
right.
remember. And I watched that, and it was really cool that they did that because it just adds to the lore. It like tells you more of the story of who the Blair Witch might be, and like, and what's his name? The
Rustin,
Rustin Parr. They talk
yeah.
about him, but the thing about that documentary is that even that feels much more fake than the movie does. Because like they get actors, and I'm like, they're doing a really good job of making it sound natural, but I can
Mhm.
tell that this is not natural. So
It's much
like
more structured because
it is.
they
Yeah.
really wanna get the lore out there.
Yes.
But that's I think one of my favorite things about the Blair Witch Project is the vagueness
Yeah.
of what information we have. Like,
Oh yeah.
in this opening act when they're interviewing people on the street, someone tells a story about this guy, Rustin Parr,
Yeah.
who they talk about how kids were going missing, and Rustin walked into town one day and he said, "Well, I'm finished. I'm all
Yeah.
done." And they said, "What do you mean?" And he confessed to kidnapping and killing these 7 children
Yeah.
or like something like that. 7 or 8 kids, I can't remember.
Yeah.
But he
However
said,
many it was.
I'm done." And then this person tells them the story that like on in his confession, he said that he was hearing the voice of a woman in his head who was telling him what to do.
Mhm.
And then explains that he would walk the kids down into his basement in twos, and
Yeah.
he would have one of the kids stand in the corner and face the corner and not look
Yeah.
at him while he killed the other kid, and then he would kill the kid in the corner. And the reason he says he did that is he didn't want their eyes on him. He couldn't
Yeah.
take them looking at him, what he was doing. So it's almost like he didn't want to be doing this, but this
Yeah.
voice in his head is compelling him. But again, the way that these details are delivered, it doesn't feel like traditional movie exposition.
No.
It honestly sounds like the way that I just told the story just there. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like someone being like, "Yeah, this is what happened," and
Yeah,
you know,
it's not perfectly scripted, just like you
yeah,
said. Like it's delivered in a way that a normal person would kind of tell the story, which again adds to the credibility of like, oh wow, this is real. But I mean, that piece of information, that's what's so brilliant, obviously
yep,
later on. But like that story itself, this is the other thing I love about the movie, like just researching this movie. It's amazing all the fan theories that there are
mhm,
about this movie, and
right,
and the directors seem to know about all of them, and they love all of them, or they love a lot of them, just because they didn't ever want to. define the Blair Witch's powers or like what
Right.
happens. They wanted to leave it mysterious and like, well, it could be anything, you know? So like there's a whole time travel aspect to this movie
Mhm.
that people have said, which I actually really like. I think it's actually a really cool way to think about the movie because they say that once they go into the woods and once they cross the threshold of those rocks, then the Blair Witch can kind of take them, bend space and time, and kind of move them. And I was like, that's a really cool thing to think about. But it wasn't intentional when the directors made it, but they love that idea and they think, oh
Well,
yeah, that's awesome.
but that's what's so cool, that the thing
Yeah,
that works for me subjectively about this film, and I get why some people might just be like, "It's just boring, nothing's
yeah,
happening."
yeah, yeah,
The thing
yeah,
that works for me is that everything is in here. Everything is in my
yeah.
head.
Yes.
Everything is just me trying to figure out what's going on with the characters,
Hmm.
and it could just be completely innocent. Like,
Yeah,
it could just be all in their heads, and I'm just trying
yeah.
to think, like, if I'm out camping with my friends in the middle and we get lost, just
Hmm.
the feeling of being lost is scary.
Oh
Like, the
yeah.
feeling of being like, we don't know where we are is scary. But then
Mhm.
at night, any noise that we're hearing when we're lost and we're not,
Yeah,
like, in a traditional campground and we don't know where we are and we don't know if there are bears, we don't like
yeah, yeah.
everything's scary. Like,
Oh
everything's
yeah.
scary. Like, at that point, I'm like, I don't know, Sasquatch could be out there. I don't
Yeah.
know. Like, I don't know where we are, and, like, I'm terrified of, like, hill people. I'm so
Yeah.
scared of,
Yeah.
like, and at one
Right.
point, Josh makes a reference to Deliverance, and I'm like, "Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
like, forget the supernatural element, I'm terrified of, like, mountain people coming out and, like,
Exactly.
killing us for being in their backyard or something,
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Mhm.
we don't know where we are, and but yeah, I love that all of the lore in this movie, it's like, I think so many people go into this movie expecting that at some point you're going to get to see the Blair Witch, or you're
Yes.
going to, like, understand
Yep.
what the Blair Witch is, what her powers are, how she works, and we never get that
Nope.
in this movie. Uh
Yeah.
Another thing that this movie does that's so interesting is, like, when the camera is rolling, oftentimes the camera will start rolling in the middle of something intense already happening,
Right.
and that whereas a lot of found footage movies, like, they wanna get the shot, so, like, the
Mhm.
camera's just always sort of conveniently rolling, like, right when something crazy happens, and it's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, good thing you happened to be rolling right when that crazy thing happened." Whereas this movie, it's like, something crazy is already happening, and Heather has the presence of mind to be like, "I should film this. I should get,"
Yeah, yeah.
so we'll start a scene, like, in the middle of
Yep.
what's going on.
Yeah, it's a great part of the movie that goes throughout the entire movie, which again adds to the realism. But
Yeah, I wanted to but before we leave this first act, they go and talk to
yeah.
this woman named Mary Brown that some people say, they're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, Mary Brown's crazy." And it's interesting because Heather later on in the film, when they
Yes.
finally get to the graveyard or
Yeah.
whatever, where all the piles of stones are,
Yeah, yeah.
she goes, "Mary Brown said something earlier about stones, and I can't remember."
Yeah.
And I went back and watched, and I was like, "No, it's not even in there." Like, we don't even get, like, with
Right. What she said. Yeah.
Yeah, Mary Brown just talks about her encounter with the Blair Witch. She talks about,
Yeah.
like, what she saw, but, like, whatever story Mary Brown told, Heather and Josh and Mike, we don't get,
No.
and I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, really interesting that she brings that up," and my movie brain is going like, "Oh, I gotta go back and hear that scene again," and then I'm
Right.
like, "Oh, it's not even there." It's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, it is funny. But yeah, I guess that's a reference to the Bible, and I saw something that talks. I think it was in Genesis 3 or something that talking about crossing. Oh god, I have to
I
figure out
saw
what it is.
this too. I saw this too, that it's like
Yeah.
it's a verse where it says, like, you like, I will not slay you if you do not cross this barrier," and the
Right.
barrier is a
Yes.
pile of rocks,
Yeah.
and it's like this agreement between these 2 characters that say, like,
Right.
"Don't cross my boundary with these piles of rocks, and I
Right.
won't harm you, but if you do, I
Yeah.
will,
Yeah.
strike you down."
Yeah.
And but again, like, that could be what Mary Brown said to them. We don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
It's not in the movie.
No.
And I love how much is not here. I actually
Mhm.
it's very much like Jaws, where, like, Steven Spielberg set out to make a movie where this shark was gonna be in so much more of the film,
Mhm.
and instead it's like the shark shows up in, like, a couple key shots, and the rest of it is, like, your imagination. Like, the rest of it
Yeah.
is, like, you just gotta,
Yeah.
like, imagine what's
Yeah.
going on under the surface of the water, and I like, there are people, because there are 3 movies now in the Blair Witch franchise. Well, I guess 4 if you include The Curse of the Blair Witch, the documentary.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but Blair Witch that came out in like 2018, I've seen, and I actually really like it.
Oh,
It's a really
interesting.
entertaining and fun movie. But
Okay.
again, the thing about Blair Witch is like at no point are you convinced of that.
Yeah, that
Like
it's yeah.
it feels like a more traditional Hollywoodized found
Yeah.
footage horror movie. But at the end of the movie, they choose to show you the Blair
Yeah.
Witch. You
Yeah.
get a few shots of her, and I like the design. Like it's cool. It's
I
and they give
saw a
her
picture of it, yeah, and I thought,
yeah.
"Oh, that's interesting. That's a good way to
It
go." Yeah.
it's cool, and the reason why she looks the way she looks is because in the story is she was strung up by her arms and by ropes from to trees,
Yeah.
and they stretched her arms out, and then they tied her legs to big boulders, and the boulders stretched her legs out,
Mm.
and she was in the trees like this, and that is also why the stick figures, like, with the
Ah,
arms
yes,
spread
yes.
out, it's her being tortured, and I was
Yeah.
kinda like, I like that retcon explanation because it is a
Yeah.
retcon, like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's not, but
Yeah.
but and as fun as that all is, I like it I prefer it more in the first one where it's just like, we have no idea what those stick
Yeah.
figures are. We have no
No.
idea what the rocks are.
No. And
Yeah.
I guess, when when they're in the tent and it shakes, and
Mhm.
they run out of their tent and Heather's saying, "What is that? What is that?" Apparently
Yep.
they were supposed to pan the camera and there was going to be somebody in like a robe or a white like
White morph suit.
yeah, something, and they were gonna be, like, hovering above the ground, but they forgot to pan the camera, and the directors were like, "Well, we'll just go with it, like, it's okay," like, we and they decided not to show that, which again, like, they were just rolling with everything, and it
But
ultimately worked out so much better in the end because you it's all up in your imagination.
I love that scene. I
Oh,
so
yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
all right, just a quick, like, just to get us to the
Yeah, to
because
that
it's
point.
all like it's like lit there's a great shot where they show up to the woods, and there's a great shot where Heather looks at the car as she's walking away,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's kind of like I like the 2 cameras that we're using in this
Yeah,
movie. We're shooting, like, the more artistic stuff on this beautiful 16
yeah.
millimeter black and white camera, but then Heather's kind of making the behind the scenes documentary
Yes.
with her handheld, but the handheld footage is also used,
Yeah.
in or they're both handheld cams, but her little,
Or little
home
camcorder thing, yeah.
camcorder. Yeah, but she it works because another big thing in the found footage genre is like you always have to justify why is the camera rolling?
Right.
Why is the camera on? Why are we shooting this scene? And with Heather, it's just that she's like, I may have us lost out here, but I might as well get as much as I can get because this is
Yeah.
turning into something more interesting than I
Mhm.
could have hoped for. And also I think that she just starts to become I think she starts hiding behind the camera,
She does,
frankly. Like I
and
think
yeah, this is something people do. Like when there's a traumatic event or a big thing going on, people will get their phones now because we have phones, but you'll get your phones to disassociate yourself from that event. So
mhm.
you record it so that you don't feel like you have to be a part of it. And that's kind of what she's doing. She's kind of disassociating herself from the reality of this situation where they're probably going to die. So it's anyway, back to you. But yeah,
No,
I
because
thought
yes,
that was
she
very
I
interesting.
mean, like, the last people they see before they head off into the woods is these 2 guys fishing, and
Yeah.
it's like, these guys really kind of give them probably their most stern warning, at least one of them does.
Yeah.
"You
Yeah.
kids are just never gonna learn, man." And his friend is like, Don't listen to him. I don't believe in witches. Like, I don't believe it."
Yep.
But
Mhm.
they both kind of have this feeling of like, "I don't know, I wouldn't go in there if I were you." But,
Yeah.
but being arrogant, young, cocky college kids, they go in anyway.
Mhm.
And Heather's whole thing is that she's got the map and she's got the compass, and she has told Josh and Mike that she knows where
Yeah.
they're going and that she's scouted this out, that she scouted these locations, and it's supposed to just be a couple days. Like it's supposed
Yeah,
to
yeah.
be, they've got 2 locations they're going to go to, and then they're hiking back to the car. But it's pretty clear to both Mike and Josh early on that like Heather's not as sure about the trail because they're not even walking on a trail. They're literally just walking like freestyle through the woods, which is
Yeah.
already very scary. And you
Mhm.
can feel early on that Mike's the first one to kind of be like, "Hey, are you sure? Like,
Yeah.
you said like 2 hours, and then you said like 3 to 4 hours, and like we've just been. It doesn't feel like you actually know where we're
Yeah.
going." and she keeps just being like, no, it's fine,
Yeah. I know exactly where we are. Yeah.
Yeah, and she, and then she's like, she's trying to keep them excited, like, guys, imagine how cool it's gonna be when we get to the graveyard. But
Mhm.
they're like, I don't know, man. And they also, there's this other place called Coffin Rock that they go
Yeah.
to,
Yeah.
and Coffin Rock's where they kind of shoot like the last like real scene from the
Yeah.
documentary where she kind of
Yeah.
gives narration. But it's like pretty quickly once they're out in these woods, it's like even when they get to the graveyard, there's this feeling of like, is this actually where Heather meant to get to?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
is this the graveyard, or is this a different place? And Heather's just saying, "Oh yeah, this is it, guys. This is it,"
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they're just totally off the
Right.
trail. And there's no answers in this movie, but
No.
I love that about the film, that it's
Oh,
just
yeah.
like we feel just as lost as the characters feel,
Yeah.
and we start to feel this sense of dread of like our main protagonist who's holding the camera we're mostly looking through is lying to Josh and Mike and to us about the fact that she feels like she knows where they're supposed to be going.
Right. Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, and after that coffin rock and they pass the threshold of the rocks, or whatever, and
Mm,
then they start hearing things. And I love how it escalates. So it just
yeah.
starts as like they go outside and they're like, "Do you hear that?" And like you can hear like weird sounds, right? And it's
It's
kind
almost
of
like
like,
rocks banging together or like really
yeah.
loud like when when you're in the woods and you hear a really loud like stick snap and
Yep.
it like echoes,
Yeah.
and you're just like, that's probably a big animal that just stepped on a stick. And it could
Mhm.
be a deer, could be
Yep.
a grizzly bear, could be a mountain lion, I don't
Yeah.
know. Or
Never
it
know.
could be hill people, and I don't want it to be hill people. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
And
yeah,
then
they yeah.
yeah, and it just kind of escalates from there, and they're all mad at they start getting really upset with each other. Mike
Yeah.
gets really upset first, but I guess I don't know. Is this on the third day? Like they cannot. They get really mad at each other after the second day because they're supposed to return the camera. Josh is supposed to get back to work, and they cannot. They're completely lost. Like they don't know where they're
And
going.
and Heather won't admit it. Heather won't
Yeah,
admit that
she
they're
won't.
lost.
Yeah,
She's letting Mike look at the map to be like, "Look, you can look for
yeah,
yourself." And he looks at it,
yeah,
he's like, "This doesn't mean anything to me. This is
yeah.
nothing." Like they're stopping and trying to do map check, and I mean all this stuff where it's like, I was thinking too, like navigating the woods with just a map and a compass.
Oh yeah.
Like you've got to be so sure of your survival skills to do that.
Hmm.
You've got to be so confident in and Heather's whole thing is she's just kind of like, how big could the forest be? Like it's really she keeps saying it's really hard to get lost in America these days, you know.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
third night, this scene is one that stuck with me from the first time I saw it, and
Hmm.
it's still, I found it just as effective watching it this time. It's where we start to hear like voices outside the
Hmm.
tent at night. And again, the camera just starts in the middle of this happening. It's like 3 in
Yeah.
the morning and the camera turns on and they're all whispering in the tent and they're all going like, they're all freaked out because
Mhm.
it's not just loud cracks in the distance. We can like hear and what actually happened is the directors
Yeah,
they would sneak into camp and make sure that the actors were asleep, and then they would play loops of sounds of babies crying and
and, like,
kids
kids playing and laughing, yeah.
yeah, but since the sound again, I love the sound design in this movie because since the sound is just going through this camcorder and it's not Dolby surround sound,
Yeah,
and it's not like mixed, like
yeah,
nobody mixed this, we can barely hear it,
mhm.
and what you hear is just it just sounds like this faint, like,
Yeah, yeah.
you
It's
know?
eerie, very, very
Ju
eerie.
and your mind is just racing going like, "What is that?" And because
Yeah,
it's a witch movie, you're like, "Is that the witch? Is that what the witch sounds like?" I
mhm,
remember being a kid and being like, "Is she just, like, outside their tent, like, softly whimpering?" And
mhm,
that's terrifying. Or is it, like, people playing a prank on them or, but then
mhm.
you sort of hear the kids laughing a little bit, and it's like, "Okay, now I'm thinking about the kids that Rustin killed. Are
Yeah,
these
yeah.
ghosts?" And it's all just your brain is just trying to go, "What is this?" Because and I'm like, I have chills right now talking about it
Yeah, it's
because
creepy.
what makes them exit the tent is all of the sudden the tent just starts shaking. And it's
Mhm.
like someone outside the tent is like, so this is probably like the most pungent encounter with a supernatural force
Yes. Yeah,
in the film where like we can hear it and we can basically see it because something is shaking the tent.
yeah.
And they bolt And this is that scene that you were talking about where she's like, "What is that? What is that?" They had it planned for her to look at something. I think it works so well that we just hear Heather all of a sudden go, "What is that?" and just start
Yeah.
screaming,
Yeah.
and we don't actually get to see what it is.
Yep.
And we
Mhm.
just, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it works really, really well. It's extremely creepy and, uh, yeah, it's very, very effective. And then I think they have to turn off the camera, and then it's kind of the next day, and they're still
They say I
there's
mean, they say it's like, 'cause, like, Mike goes like, "Please tell me it's, like, 5 AM or something, like, please tell me it's almost morning," and she's like,
yeah,
"It's 3 AM." Like, "No," 'cause that and they don't go back to they stay out until the sun comes up, which
that's
sun
right.
probably
Yeah.
comes up around, like, 6:30, so they're out there hiding in the woods for 3.5 hours, not sleeping, and then
Mhm.
they go back to their camp and, yeah, their tent's
Their
been
stuff is all
ransacked.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
their stuff and they have there's this weird goo substance everywhere, and it's mainly
which
over Josh's stuff.
Which again, I feel like this is probably something that they in a modern found footage horror movie, they would make sure they get an insert or a close up of this goo stuff so that
Yeah.
we can see it. We don't really get to see a good clear look of what it looks like.
No.
Josh just tells us there's goo on my stuff,
Yeah.
but we can't see it very clearly. But what what it sounds like is Josh has been marked somehow. Like
Yeah, yeah.
he's
Well, and
been,
and and Josh and Heather are really they have a really contentious relationship at this point. Like
yeah.
he even like none of them are liking each other, but Josh and Heather are having a really hard time. And at this point too, I think we find out, or we might have found out before this, that Mike kicked the map into the creek.
I think it's after this because they all
It might
pack
be,
up.
yeah. Yeah.
They all pack up after Josh has been messed with, and they're like, "Let's just get out of here. Let's just," and they
That's right.
decide, like,
Yeah.
"We're just gonna head south." Like, the idea is, let's just walk south, and as long as we keep moving in one direction, we will eventually get out of here.
Yeah.
And then we cut to Josh has the camera now, and he's talking to Heather, and he's like, "Are you serious?" And she's like, "I," and he's like, "You're serious? You
Yeah.
can't find it?"
Yeah.
And so what we initially think is, oh, the whoever came to the tent last night, whether it's hill
Mhm.
people or the ghosts of kids or the witch or whoever came to the tent stole their map, took the
Yeah.
map too. So it's like, well, this sucks.
Mhm.
But what we come to find out is Mike actually threw the map into the river.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting twist in the
It is.
story too,
Well, and
because you're
I guess it really happened. Like, it
really.
was not a part of their story from what I understand. I could be wrong, but from what I understand, like, he kicked the map into the a river and thought the other actors saw him do it, and then he's like, "Oh, well, nobody saw me do it," and the directors just rolled with it, and then he just decided, like, "I'll just tell them when I feel like it's the best time," and he told them
So
then.
what's interest and it feels like that.
It
So
does, yeah.
in the real world of the movies, it's like Heather and Josh knew probably that their camp was gonna be ransacked and they were gonna do this
Yeah.
scene, but then Heather's like, "I can't find the map." So she's thinking, "Okay, the directors took the map, and so now we
Mhm.
have to do a whole thing about how we can't find the map." And Heather and Josh are both probably thinking this is a part of the movie where, like,
You're
the
right.
like, the witch took the map or something, and when Mike tells them, "Guys, I did it."
Mhm.
The reaction that they have is so genuine to being
Yeah.
like they're
Yeah.
so instantly, like, incensed at him, like, but also there's this weird thing with Heather where she's like, "I'm off the hook now. Now I'm not the one who's responsible
Yeah.
for killing us. Now we can blame it on Mike," you know?
Mhm.
And it's just interesting the way that they all kind of slowly turn on each other and
Yeah.
can't, and then, yeah, they move south they say that they walk for 15 hours because remember, they
Yeah.
start at, like, the first light of day, like, as soon
Mhm.
as it's light out, they walk back to camp, find their camp ruin, they pack everything up, and they move south, and they walk all day long, and they come back to this they find at the end of this day that they've been
Yeah.
walking in circles all day,
And they
and
end up right at this point that they started at. So,
right.
yeah.
And this is where the fan theories come in of, like, what's going on in the part of the woods beyond the stacked rocks? Like,
Mhm.
are they in some kind of weird limbo state? And the Blair Witch movie from 2018 that's just called
Mhm.
Blair Witch explores this further, that, like, there's
Mhm.
a certain point you get past the rocks where, like, they really solidify the lore that, like, it
Yeah.
is a loop and that it is a place that you can't escape from,
Mhm.
and it is, But this was again, in the first movie, like, none of this is, like, necessarily intended. This is all just stuff that you as the audience are going like, "How could that be?" If they're
Yeah.
walking in a straight line for
Yeah.
15 hours, how could they wind up back at the same spot? Unless they're just so disoriented that
Mhm.
they, you know, they're more lost than they realize, or the compass doesn't work, or whatever,
Right.
you know?
Right.
But all of it just feels incredibly distressing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and then
Yeah.
after this point, they wake up and they find Josh gone, right?
Yep.
So
And
he's
apparently Mike was supposed to be they
yes.
told everybody that Mike was gonna disappear, and so this is another twist that they were like,
Yeah.
"Well, let's actually just grab Josh." Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, so they decide yeah. They had to make a lot of pivots, and they did a really good job
Yeah.
on rolling with it, but so Josh disappears, and they can hear him, right?
Mhm.
It's in the middle of the night, and they can hear him screaming, which again is just like, "Oh, man," like and they took Josh, and they had him go with the directors, and they just had him scream, like, all over, but, like, they try to find him, they're trying to look for him, and they're yelling for him, and they cannot find him, and it's like that's also extremely disturbing because you can tell that
Oh,
he's screaming for his life.
well, the fact like, I have chills just again,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
the realistic nature of this film just makes you think, like, and again, this is why I'm like, I don't need the movie to have a bunch of jump scares. I don't need it to have, like, a
No.
bunch of, like, gory shock value. Just this idea of, like, yesterday, the night before, we were stalked by something that chased us out of our tent and then trashed our camp and
Yeah.
put goo all over our friends' stuff. Then we walked for 15 hours only to go in a big circle, and now Josh is gone. And
Mm,
we can hear him screaming, but we can't seem to pinpoint a direction that his voice is coming from.
right.
And it's just like all of this is like so unnerving. It's just
Mhm.
if you put yourself in the idea of like if you were watching this as a true crime documentary, you'd be like, this is terrifying.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
it's just so like I think it's just like this primal fear of
Yeah.
the unknown, fear of being in the dark, and
Yeah, yeah.
there's so many shots at night in this movie where you just can't see anything,
No,
and all you
no.
can just hear stuff,
Yeah.
and that it's so off-putting, and
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. And then the next day, there's a thing of sticks that are covered in Josh's clothes,
Mhm.
and Heather takes it and just, like, is so scared she just kinda throws it away. And apparently, this was the only time when the directors had to intervene. They went up
Yeah.
and they were like, you need to go you need to open it."
Yeah.
So, she went and she anyway, in the movie, she goes and she gets it, and she opens it, and it's full of teeth,
Yeah,
real human teeth,
and blood.
which were apparently real human teeth that, like, the
It
director went to his dentist and was like, "You have some teeth?" And they got teeth.
It's
So
very this image again, and it's like it shows that, like, I just feel like this movie is truly a masterpiece of subtlety,
oh,
where it's
yeah.
like you don't need to do much, but seeing, like, real teeth that you assume were pulled out of Josh's face by someone by whoever is but by whatever is stalking them is
Mhm.
so jarring. It's just it's and again, none of these questions are actually answered. We don't actually get a definitive like, yes, that's Josh's clothes. Yes, that's Josh's teeth. It's just what we're all assuming. And then
Yeah.
our minds are just running, like going like, what did that to him? Who did that to
Mhm.
him? Um, by now they have found the little place where all of the stick figures are, the
Yeah.
famous sort of,
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
that's a whole scene too, where they're like, they find like this little grove that's covered with these stick figures. And again, the thing about this movie, the reason why this movie has so many fan theories is like all of this could be potentially totally unrelated. Like the
Mhm.
stacks of rocks could just be
Yeah.
like hiking cairns, like that they're not necessarily
Right, right.
supernatural. The little stick figures could have been done by like townspeople years ago and they had nothing to do with what's going on.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
all of it put together just feels really like and then
Yeah.
this bundle of sticks thing with the teeth in it is like, "Okay, that's not cool."
Yeah,
That's like
there's
that's
something
not
there. Yeah.
yeah, and but, so, we have one more day with Heather and Mike, who are, they're both just, like, so delirious and
Yeah.
tired and hungry, and then we finally get, kind of at night, Heather's, like, her big like confession scene, which
Right.
again, this was a mistake. Like she
Yeah.
was supposed to be framing her entire face, and she didn't realize that the camera was zoomed in too
Yep.
far,
Yep.
and they used it, and it's the most famous shot from the film.
Yeah.
You
It was
know?
parodied many, many, many times.
Uh,
All, Scary Movie, all the Saturday Night Live, I feel like did some. Everybody kind of parodied this. So,
Also, is this kind of a Mandela effect thing for you? Like like a Luke, I am your father kind of thing?
right.
Where like I remember that the famous line from this scene is "I'm so scared,"
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but she doesn't say that. She
It
doesn't
is a
say it.
Mandela effect. Yeah. Cause I thought it was,
Don't
I'm
you?
just so scared right now. Yeah.
What
That must have just been the thing that,
what she says that I actually think is better is "I'm scared to close my eyes. I'm scared to open my eyes."
yes,
And I think that's a much better line.
it
I
is.
think,
Yeah.
like but I was waiting for it. I was like, she's about to say, like, "I'm so scared," but
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was like, "Oh, she doesn't say that," but that's, like, the thing that everyone
It is.
parodies is
It's true.
yeah,
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It is a Mandela effect. I think it's just so much easier to say, I'm just so scared right now. It's
but I'm
kind of the
scared to
natural
close
thing.
my eyes, and I'm
Yeah.
scared to open my eyes is really, really
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah.
better
And again, I love this is really like the point where she has her, full arc. She realizes, she finally admits that she has no idea what she's doing. She's been
mhm,
faking this. She's probably responsible. She takes responsibility for their deaths because she says, we're gonna die out here.
mhm.
And she apologizes to her mom, to Mike's mom, and Josh's mom, and it is a really great, again, a great scene because it feels so real and and natural. And again, the zooming in where she didn't even mean to do it that way. Like it just works.
Like, again, like, I just don't think it's ever been done this well before or after because everything else that's come after this is just too polished. It's just
Yeah.
the camera's, like, too conveniently framed. It just always gets, like, it always will get a good jump scare of the monster jumping in front of the camera, or it'll
Mhm.
fall on the ground and still be framed to see someone getting dragged away. Like, it's always just, like, too perfect, and the imperfections of this film, the subtlety of it is what makes it feel so eerily real,
Mhm.
and this speech just feels real. The
Yeah.
performances are
Yeah.
so but yeah, in this final night, we're heading into our last and this is just like a very famous sequence, but
Yeah.
Mike and Heather start hearing Josh again, and they're following the sound of his voice. They decide to go after him. And this is kind of like a thing for both of them where it's like, you know what, we're probably both dead at this point anyway, whatever.
Mhm.
Let's go see if we can get our friend back. And they find this house. And
Yeah.
we've been told earlier in the film about Rustin's cabin in the woods,
Yep.
but this is another thing that makes people this is a fan theory thing because it's like they don't walk far from their campsite before
No.
they run into this cabin. And it's quite a large house. And
Yeah.
it is. First of all, this house just again gives me the chills.
Oh, yeah, it's
If I
creepy.
was if I was hiking in the woods and came across something like this, I would be very unnerved
Yeah,
and
just move
very
past.
scared.
We're not
Yep,
going in there.
we're not
Yeah.
going in there. But all this house seems to just sort of materialize out of nowhere. And
Yeah.
this is what makes some people think that there might be a time travel element here going
Mhm.
on, that like they might have maybe because there's also lore that says that the cabin was burned down, but in the 80s
Right,
or
right.
70s. And so this might be them going back in time to like the 50s or 60s and or something like that.
Yeah.
And um who knows? Again, no answers are given to us by this film, and I like it that way.
Yes.
But they go into the house, and this is I think for a lot of people where you're either like you're gonna love this or hate this because
Mhm.
I think a lot of horror film fans are thinking like, okay, here it comes. We're
Mhm.
gonna get to see the witch. Like we're gonna
Yeah.
get like
Yeah.
some really crazy big finale, and the finale we get is so understated in a way, but to me is still just like one of the most bone-chilling,
Oh, yeah.
just like just terrifying
Yeah.
endings
It
imaginable.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they go in and there's all these little handprints,
Oh, the
little
handprints.
kid handprints
Ooh,
all over the walls,
no.
and, like,
Oh,
everything is just so creepy it's like I feel like a lot of people like, we went into abandoned houses, everybody's been into
sure.
an abandoned house, and it feels very I don't know, something weird about it, and,
Yeah.
like, So you see all these little handprints. It's just creepy in the middle of the woods. And they go upstairs first, and then Mike hears something and he just bolts it downstairs.
And Mike's
And
got the 16 millimeter camera, and
no,
we're
Mike's got
cut.
the camcorder. Or no.
He's
Yeah,
he's got
I think
the
you're right. I think you're right. Yeah,
he's got the 16 mil,
yeah.
and because we can,
We can hear him.
or no, he's got the he's yeah, because we can hear her screaming in the distance, and yeah, so you're right. She's got the 16
That's
mil.
right. So
That's
yeah,
right. Yeah,
he's got the camcorder, and he's
yeah,
yeah. So he's got it. He runs downstairs, and then we just see his camera kind of like fall, and we hear Heather just screaming, "Mike, Mike, what?" You know, like she's really mad that he left her, but also
and the
she's
way that
terrified.
the way that the camera is cutting between their two
Oh
cameras
man.
in this house, and even just the fear of, like, when Mike gets too far ahead of her and she's just, like,
Yeah,
screaming because she's like, "Don't leave me. Like,
yeah, yeah,
don't walk ahead of me too," like, that feeling too of, like, being in a scary place with your friends and being like, "Okay, don't, like, run ahead, like,
hmm
stay close to me." Like, that feeling of her just screaming after him and being like, and he
yeah,
when
yeah,
Mike bolts down the stairs, he goes like, "I can hear him downstairs." Like, I have that,
yeah, yeah,
like, that sound, and the sound of her screaming is so, it's like something you would hear on a true crime documentary of just, like,
yeah,
the audio of a
yeah,
person screaming,
yeah.
and it's so, like, true terror, the
hmm
sound of her voice, and we hear her from a distance because the sound is being recorded by the camcorder,
hmm
and she's all the way
hmm
upstairs, but
Yep.
we see her footage of the 16 mil
Yeah. Yeah.
coming down the stairs past the handprints, and I just think that, like, everyone expects something bigger
Yeah.
here,
Yeah.
but what
They
we
do.
get is she walks in, and with this, it's probably the second best shot of the film, if not, you could say leaving the
Yeah.
car or the close up with the confessional or this, and it's Mike standing in the corner of the room,
Well,
not
yeah,
saying anything.
and she, like, slowly pans, and you
Yeah.
see him standing in the corner, and she's like, "Mike, what are you doing?" And then the camera shakes, and she screams, and then it just kind of, like, pauses there, like, glitching a little bit, and then the movie's over. That's that's the end of the movie, and I got chills so bad when I watched this. I was like, that ending. Just the
Oh,
fact that he is standing in the corner staring, and the fact that we had heard that before, I'm still just like, that is like a
because
brilliant ending.
and again, it's like the most where your brain immediately goes is like, okay, so I guess the ghost of Rustin Parr
Right.
is picking them off at the behest of the Blair Witch, or was Rustin Parr working on behalf of the Blair Witch, and this is just what the Blair Witch does. Is
Yeah.
I don't,
Yeah.
but
Does
that's
she
the
make
thing is
other
like
people do it? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's the not knowing that is so,
Well,
it's the fact that Mike ran downstairs, I hear Josh downstairs, his camera drops, and something happens that we don't see, and
yeah.
by the time she comes down there, Mike has left the camera on the ground and has been somehow moved to stand in the corner and not move and just to stare at the corner,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
whatever has happened that we didn't see in the, like,
Yeah.
10 seconds that they were separated, it's the not knowing that's so scary.
Yeah.
It's the not knowing is like, is Mike already dead? Is this
Yeah.
Mike's ghost? Is
Well,
like,
and
I
the thing that I wondered too this time, like, is Josh now doing the Blair Witch's bidding?
oh,
Is he the one who lured them in and then did that? Like, like, is he possessed? Is it? But that's the best part. The best part is you have no idea. It's all up to you. I don't know. We
oh,
don't know. But that's what makes it so good, and that's why I'm so glad that we never see the Blair Witch in this movie. And I haven't seen Blair Witch, which I'm sure is,
yeah.
like you said, I
It
actually have
it
heard good things about it. But
it's entertaining, it's
yeah.
serviceable,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's yeah.
But
Mhm.
this is just, everything is up to your imagination. Because if you want, you could say that this is just an unfortunate event where they stumbled upon some stuff, and maybe, it was an animal that, like, shook their tent, and they, like, you could say that this is just a totally unfortunate, or you can go all the way to the other side and say that it was a supernatural event with time travel and, time loops and all this stuff. And whatever you like, it can be that.
That's the thing, is trying to think about, like, what is going on here,
Yeah.
and the fact that the movie doesn't tell you that, because and you just feel like you're like, "Am I just spinning out like the characters?" Because I've been told all these scary stories about these woods, and now all this weird stuff is happening, And
Yeah.
it, it's just like being we would do this as kids. Like we would have sleepovers and we would try to scare each other. And we would like tell
Yeah.
scary stories. And then
Yes.
any noise we heard, we'd be like, is that the thing from the story that we were just telling? And we liked
Yes.
that feeling.
Oh,
But
yeah.
watching someone actually experience it and knowing the entire time that it's like these three kids never came back. Like
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Heather, Josh, and Mike never came back. That's what we know from the beginning. So whatever's going on in this house, whether it's Josh who's been possessed by the ghost of
Mhm.
Rustin, or whether it's Josh being possessed by the witch, or whether
Yeah.
it's the witch herself, whatever's going on, we know that this is where the footage ends. That
Yep.
this is the last known footage of them alive, and the last shot being Mike staring at the corner and not saying anything is
Mhm.
just so bone chilling. And it's like
Oh, yeah.
it's not necessarily a confirmation of anything, any one particular theory, but it is a confirmation of like something really messed up
Yeah.
is happening in this house right now. And we are left to just imagine what it is.
Yeah.
And we don't know what happens next. We don't know if they get tortured, if their teeth get pulled out,
Nope.
if their limbs get stretched in the trees. We don't know anything. It's just that's it, you
Mhm.
know? And
That's the end.
yeah.
That's
Oh, what
crazy.
a
Oh, creepy.
I I think I understand to a certain degree when people go like, just I
Yeah.
find it
I
boring. I just disagree.
Yeah, I disagree as well. You have to
Yeah.
appreciate it being subtle and what they were going for. They are going for realism. They're not going for sensationalism. They're trying to make this seem like this is a real story, which you've got to admire.
And they succeed so
Yeah.
well. Like that's what
Oh,
I am
yeah.
so impressed with is just all these years later, it's like this thing feels more real than any other handheld found
Oh,
footage
yeah.
film
Yeah.
I've ever seen.
Mhm.
And like by leaps and bounds. Like
Yeah.
the other ones, I don't even bother trying to like
No.
get he's like pulled into the I'm not even like from the jump with most found footage movies, I'm aware I'm watching a movie. And
Mhm.
like and I
Yeah.
just go, that's fine. And I suspend my disbelief and I go with it.
Mhm.
But this
Yep.
movie, it's like I think the reason why that ending is so effective is I believe these characters as real people.
Yeah.
I believe their performances, I believe their emotions, and whatever is happening to them in this house, I feel like I'm in there with them.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Mhm. All right. Well, okay, let's get into our scores. Technical rating, rating for the ending, rating for rewatchability, rating for cultural significance and importance, and our subjective score out of 10, 10 being the best. Kramer, what's your technical rating for the Blair Witch Project?
My technical rating is an 8, and maybe it should be higher, but I mean, it's poorly made on purpose. And that is what they wanted to do. So technically, they did this so much better than anything before it and anything after it. Like it feels like a real found footage movie because the cameras are not good, the audio's not great, the acting is very naturalistic. It all works extremely well.
Like I'm gonna do something crazy here. I just changed my score. It was a 9, and
Mhm.
I'm changing it to a 10
Okay.
because I do think this is the gold standard for this genre, and I
Yeah.
don't think anyone's going to do it better anytime soon because everything that they do in this movie shouldn't work.
Yeah.
It should be like, oh, we tried to make a movie where we had actors just sort of shoot it for us and improvise things, and it just
Mhm.
like, and the fact that they like all of the things that go wrong that like didn't go the way that they wanted them to go, and the way that like all of those things wound up making the movie better and
Mhm.
wound up making it like if the goal of a film like this is to make people feel like they're looking at something that really happened and watching something unfold that is really really terrifying to watch slowly
Mhm.
unfold piece by piece. I can't I literally look at it and I'm like, I anything that I could think of to improve it, like sometimes I think about the ending, like this big climax in this house, and I'm like, I could think of them doing more here. Like maybe we just like
Yes.
see like we see like when the camera falls on the ground, like a foot like
Mhm.
step into,
Mhm. Yeah, 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 yeah.
just something where we get a little hint of
Yeah.
Rustin's ghost or the witch or something. But when I think like when I go, maybe they could give us a little bit more. I'm like, I think that would make it worse. I
Yeah.
think actually it's better that we have less. And so it's kind of a thing
Yeah.
where I'm like, I don't actually know. I think what they managed to do with this movie is kind of like a small miracle. It's kind of something that's like, I don't know
Yeah.
how you manage to pull this off
I
so well.
I think
And
I I think you're right, and so I have changed my score to a 10 as well. This is the gold standard. Technically, for this style of film, they did it perfectly, and I don't think
yeah,
anybody can make that better than this.
like like all three performances are just like,
Yep.
yeah, I believe all of you the entire time.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
even and then like the people in the first act, it's like, I believe all these people. So
Yep.
there's no moment where I get pulled out of it and I'm like, okay, that feels a little
Mhm.
like,
Mhm.
it's just a thing where I'm like, I've watched a lot of found footage movies and I like a lot of them, and I've never seen any of them that I
Yeah.
believe in as much as I believe in this one. So I
Yeah,
don't know how,
absolutely.
like all of the imperfection of it is what makes it
Yes.
right,
Yes. Yes.
and yeah. So how about the ending?
The ending, I'm giving a 9. And it honestly probably could be a 10, but I mean, it comes on quickly. So I think
Mhm.
that's why I'm done, because it's just kind of like all of a sudden we're going into it. But it goes into the technical aspect of it. So it's not, but and seeing Mike standing in the corner, just every time I think about it is just chilling. So
Yeah.
it's such a great way to end this movie.
Yeah, I added in a 9. I think I'm gonna bump it up to a 9.5.
That's good.
Like, the reason I did it in a 9 is I was like, I think every time I come back to the film and watch it, I'm like, I want a little bit more from it. I just am
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
I
yeah.
love this
Yeah, yeah.
ending, and I just want it to be like maybe like 3 or 4 minutes longer, and I just want it to like I just want them to pull the tension out a
Mm,
little
mm.
bit more.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
then I'm also like, I don't know, like
Yeah.
again, I'm not sure that that would actually make it better. I feel like I saw someone on YouTube say this about this movie, and I was like, "That's a really good way of describing this," because there's not a maybe the only jump scare in the movie is this last shot of Mike, but
Yeah.
it's not a jump
Yeah.
scare. It's not done in like a boom way. It's
Right.
slowly revealed.
Yep.
But it feels like the entire movie is the tension that's the buildup before a jump scare.
Yeah,
When
yeah.
you're watching a horror
Yep.
movie and like you can tell a jump scare is coming, and it's like the longer that they can pull that out, the more dread
Mhm.
the audience feels. This whole movie feels like
Yep.
you're waiting, 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 and it never happens till that last moment. And that's kind of technically amazing
Yeah.
to be like,
Yeah.
we're not gonna let the air out of your lungs until the
Yeah.
and even like I was listening to like the sound. I watched the whole credits and I was like, the sound design in these credits is terrifying. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's just like, so 9.5, I guess,
Yeah.
for the ending.
It's a good one.
Rewatchability.
Rewatchability, I gave a 7. It's the shaky cam definitely is like, "Oh, man, woof." But it
Yeah.
it adds to it, but it doesn't make it easy to watch. And it all goes into this is exactly what they wanted, but it is slower paced and it does take a little while. I mean, I could definitely watch this, maybe not every Halloween, but every other Halloween, if you know. And so it's not a bad movie, but I don't particularly love to rewatch it. But it's definitely rewatchable, especially that end. So
'Cause it's 80 minutes long,
yeah,
like, it's
it's
it's like a
easy.
pretty breezy, watch. You're right, like, if I am gonna put on, a horror movie just for fun, this probably isn't my first pick, weirdly, because it
Yeah, yeah,
is
yeah.
it like, I that's where I get the valid criticism, like, yeah, it's not like, if I and it's like, if I'm gonna show it to someone else, it's like, I'm not sure if they're gonna feel the same way about it that I do. I
Right.
think I just love the movie because it's doing something it's attempting something really difficult
Yes.
and pulling it off really, really, really well.
Hmm.
And but rewatchability, I gave it an 8, for the same reason that, like, it
Yeah.
might not be my first, thing I go to. How about, cultural significance and impact?
10.
Gotta
I
be.
think it has to be a 10. I mean,
Gotta be.
this really, I mean, there's been so many found footage movies after this because of this movie.
Mhm.
And they did it perfectly to start out with, and everything else now is just an imitation. Some of them are great. Some are really, really great. But this is the one that we all look to. So
Right. I gave it a 10 as well. There's no other score you can get. I mean,
no,
the impact that cannot be overstated
no.
for that this film had on the horror genre,
Mhm.
and because it's not even just the found footage, but like how this redefined like what qualifies as like a scary movie. The fact that this movie is
Yeah.
still on so many people's lists of like top 10 scariest films ever made, and it's a movie with no soundtrack and no jump scares, where
Yep.
like not a lot happens at all, and people are like, I don't know, for some reason the vibe of this film is
Yeah.
terrifying. And
Mhm.
it's like what
Yeah.
makes it terrifying is that realism.
Yep.
Uh okay, and then how about subjective score?
My subjective score is a 9. It's a great, and I mean, it owes a lot to the fact that we were around when it came out. And I can see how some of that impact is lost with younger people who didn't really experience this. But I mean, it's such a great movie that you can talk about all the lore and all the stuff that they did. Cause it's not that you're just talking about the movie, you're talking about everything. Like we've talked this whole time about the directors
Mhm.
and their plan for it. So, like, it's such a fun movie that is all encompassing of the entirety of the process.
Yeah,
I
because
appreciate the whole thing.
you're watching it and you're just going, how did they do this? Like I
Yeah.
like, and it's like I get it, but like I've seen what actors are like when they're trying to pretend to be realistic, and
Mhm.
it's not this good. Like it's like I don't know.
Nope.
I give it a 9 too. I honestly didn't know how I was gonna feel rewatching this film, and I just was so impressed with it. All these years later, I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
nobody's done it this well since this. Like nobody has like surpassed this watermark.
Nope.
And it's one of the most unique horror films I think I've ever seen.
Yeah.
In that, like it has its own goals and it accomplishes its goals so well. And it's
Mhm.
not trying to replicate other films. It's not trying to like pay homage. It's just like it just captures that feeling of like camping with your friends and getting scared in the tent
Yeah.
in a way that is so like pungent and
Mhm.
yeah.
Totally.
So that's it. Happy Halloween, everybody. We're
Yeah.
staying on this Halloween tip. So what do you think about the Blair Witch Project? Let us know in the comments. Like, share, comment, subscribe. And we're watching Scream next week. The
Yes.
OG.
Yeah.
Not Scream 5 or whatever it is that's also called
Yeah.
Scream,
Yeah.
but
No.
Scream 1998 or whatever it is.
Was it
1990
99 or was it 96? Let's see.
96 maybe. Uh
96. Yeah, 96.
96. Scream 96. Skeet Ulrich, Nev Campbell, Courtney
Yeah.
Cox, Drew
Yeah. Drew
Barrymore.
Barrymore, the
Uh-huh.
biggest star in the movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Matthew Lillard,
Yeah.
Jamie Foxx.
Jamie
What
Foxx,
a
or no, not Jamie Foxx,
or
Jamie
Jamie
Kennedy.
Kennedy.
Jamie
Jamie Kennedy.
Jamie Kennedy, yeah.
I was thinking of Jamie Foxx because I was thinking of the Jamie Kennedy Experiment.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
you got
I remember that.
X'd by Jamie
Yeah,
Kennedy.
yeah.
Okay, so that's next week, and then after that we'll be watching Chris Stuckman's movie Shelby Oaks. So watch along with us, and we'll see you next time on the Spooky Show.
Bye-bye.